Hello and welcome to the Weather Studio Live. It's 1 o'clock and it's Tuesday and we are in the Met Office. I'm Alex Deakin.
And I'm Aidan McGivern. Coming up today, we're going to be talking about what everyone's talking about. Global heat waves. Records have been smashed across the world this summer. Natural weather patterns or down to global warming? We'll be finding out from Dr. Kathy Cole. But is it all over for the heat? Cooler weather on the way for much of Europe and the UK over the next 7 days. Is that it for the summer? Or can we expect more hot sunshine later in August? We'll be finding out all about that.
Yep, all to come over the next 20 minutes or so, but please get involved yourself. Don't forget to send us your questions. We'll try and answer some during the programme. Give us the thumbs up as well if you like it, and give us any feedback. This is still a relatively new format for us as well, so tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, tell us what you'd like more of. Subscribe to the channel as well. All of that. But right now, let's get on with the nitty-gritty of today's format, because we're starting off with something hot, because it's another hot special, but something really devastating and pretty scary if you're close to this. These images taken in California of what looks like a tornado in amongst the wildfires. Now, this wildfire is still raging, but these images were taken over a week or so ago. And this looks like, as I say, a tornado, and is sometimes called a firenado. But that's a bit misleading. As it says at the top, it's not actually a tornado. It looks like one, it behaves like one, but the main difference here is that actually it's formed from the ground up, whereas tornadoes are formed by clouds coming down and winds spiraling and spreading out. This is more like a dust devil that we've talked about on this program before, where the air is sucked up and because of the heat creates the rising air. The air rises up, and of course wildfires generate their own winds. Winds, if you like, are just Mother Nature trying to balance things out. And of course, you've got extreme heat with the fire and it's cooler nearby, so it generates their own winds. One of the many reasons why they're very difficult to tackle, wildfires, because the winds are always swirling around all over the place. But you get these local effects and the winds start to spiral as well as the air rushing up, and you get that formation of what looks like a tornado, a column of air that's rotating, and they can have devastating effects. This one allegedly had winds of over 140 miles an hour, so similar effects to a tornado. And of course, you've got the fire surrounded like that. It just doesn't bear thinking about being anywhere close to that. So that is what we saw there, a fire whirl, or a fire devil, rather than what's called sometimes a firenado. Now, this is the actual fire that's still burning in this part of California near to Redding. The distance here from Redding to Douglas City is about 37 miles. So you can see the fire, this image taken this morning, so this fire is still burning 2 weeks later. It's about 35 miles across by 25 miles across as well.
A huge area.
A huge area. One of the deadliest and largest fires of the season in California. And actually, this season, the fires haven't been as bad overall as they were last season, 2017. And they're caused by years of drought, of course. Now, California actually had quite a wet winter, which in some ways is good news, because they needed the rain. But actually, it's bad news in some ways for fires, because it generates more vegetation. So because they had a lot of rain over the winter, you get more growth, which actually creates more fuel for the fires.
Well, that's what we saw in Greece, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
This summer, because they had a lot of rain early in the summer, more vegetation, and then we had some devastating wildfires there as well once the sunshine returned. So yes, this, for context, this is where Redding is in California. Now, Death Valley is, if I just play it on there, it's over here. Death Valley holds the record for the hottest temperature on the planet, but also holds the record for the hottest month on the planet. Now, until this July, the hottest month on the planet was last July. And that record broke 100 years of records. So this is 1917, July 1917. It was beaten last July after standing for 100 years. But look at that, we've beaten it again by a considerable amount.
So these are Fahrenheit. It's a degree, half a degree Fahrenheit, that gap. So almost a full degree.
108 Fahrenheit there. That's 42, just over 42 degrees Celsius. And this is the average temperature through the month, both day and night. And you can see that July 2018, now the hottest month on the planet, just over 42 degrees.
Wow.
So one record broken there, but of course there were many
around the world.
One of many. There's Japan, an extraordinary summer in Japan. First they had the flooding, and then they had their hottest all-time temperature of 41.1 degrees. Kumagaya, just north of Tokyo there, then a typhoon, and now potentially...
Yeah, there's another storm heading for Japan actually this weekend, and it could impact on Tokyo on Saturday, I think, as well. It's quite a big, powerful storm this, so that's another area to watch. So Japan's really been hit hard over the last 6 weeks or so, but again, another example of incredible heat throughout this northern hemisphere summer.
One particularly hot part of the world had an extraordinary hot temperature. Algeria, 51.3 degrees. So these are rounded to the nearest degree here, but this was 51.3 degrees, tying the all-time Algerian and the all-time African temperature. So that ties the 1979 value. But somewhere where we normally expect cold temperatures, Scandinavia has had an extraordinary summer with high pressure sat over Scandinavia for most of the summer. They've just had long, sunny days and endless dry weather, and temperatures in the Arctic Circle, Bardufoss, 33.5 degrees around the
particularly
middle of
the
July.
north, hasn't it? Particularly northern parts of Scandinavia, through Finland as well as northern Norway and northern parts of Sweden. Just had an incredible summer. We've had a hot summer across the UK, but theirs is even more extreme.
And the resultant wildfires as well across parts of Scandinavia, of course.
Still ongoing.
So we mentioned the UK's top temperature. I've lost it.
You find that back out. So the heat across the UK, which is now coming to an end today, Tuesday, probably looks like being the last of the days. We're going to see 30 degrees for at least a while before things turn a lot cooler. But it has been an extreme summer across the UK, particularly through June and the early part of July. Now, we did see a change, didn't we, towards the end of...
From May to July, the average temperatures have been way above we'd normally expect. Now, there's a temperature series called the Central England Temperature Series. Ignore what's going on here.
You keep clicking through that. The Central England Temperature Series, which goes back over 100 years, for the months of May, June and July. So that's not actually a season. It's not the summer, because we measure summer as June, July and August, and of course there's still a month to go. But the 3-month period, May, June and July, has been the highest on record in terms of maximum temperatures for the Central England temperatures, and those records go back over 100 years. So
well, they go back to the 17th century for the Central England Temperature Series. Now, what I'm trying to get onto here is a graph that shows that temperature series and taking the period of May to July.
Yeah.
And here we go. Here we go. It was worth
the wait for this wriggly line.
So this takes the average maximums, the average daytime temperature, May to July, and this graph was compiled by Simon Lee on Twitter. Well worth checking his Twitter profile out. He does all sorts of interesting graphs, but this is the temperature difference from average, so up to 3 degrees warmer than average at the top there, -3 there at the bottom. And it's up and down as you'd expect for May to July, year to year. But this year really stands out, 3 degrees or more hotter than average. May to July, way more than any other year. So that's just taking May to July. It will be interesting after August to see June to August and see how that compares to this long-running series. Of course, this is Central England. It's a cluster of weather stations across central parts of the UK. It doesn't take into account Scotland and Northern Ireland and so on. But it is an interesting series.
It's the longest,
record
that we have across the UK, and it's probably verified here at the Met Office, isn't it? So it's genuinely remarkable statistics there for the past 3 months.
Now, over the weekend, we were paying very close attention to the Iberian Peninsula because they had the potential for record-breaking temperatures. Records still stand for Portugal and Spain of 47.3 and 47.4 Celsius, respectively. Well, no, the other way around, actually. 47.4 for Portugal, 47.3 for Spain. We got close. These are rounded up. So we were just over 46.5 degrees for both at the weekend. So we got very close to beating the Spanish and the Iberian records, and not far away from the European temperature record, which is 48 degrees. So that still stands. Now, just to play devil's advocate, some would say, okay, we didn't beat the European temperature record. We only tied the African temperature record. And just picking a few places around the world where we've had these heat waves, well, that's not really proof of global warming, is it? Surely these are all part of natural variation. Well, to give us the answer, whether these are natural cycles. Let's bring in our expert
for the week, shall we? Come on in, Kathy, come on in. Kathy, just briefly describe what your role is here. You're a climate change communicator, yeah? Is that right?
That's right,
so
yeah.
What do you do day to day? What does that involve?
So I work in a team that communicates the science that we do at the Heatwave Hadley Centre with various people, so our government departments that fund the climate programme, also with the public through social media and our website.
So you work with climate scientists?
That's right. We work very closely with climate scientists, and we communicate all of that advances and developments in the science to make sure...
Of the 17 warmest years have occurred since 2000. In the last 17 years, the record's going back over 100 years. So that's right. pretty impressive statistic here. And this is just to emphasise that 2017 was not as hot as 2015 and 2016.
That's right.
But it was hotter than every other year on record.
Every other year
and also 2015 and
crucially,
2016, they were El Nino years.
And
That's
2017 wasn't an El Nino, so it was the warmest ever non-El Nino year on record.
So El Nino is another natural cycle in our climate system, and we see periods where we have warmer than average temperatures boosted by El Nino, and that's what happened in 2015 and 2016.
So
and 2017, not so much.
Of course, climate scientists know all about these natural cycles, but you are able to take those natural cycles and pinpoint where the background global warming is, can't you?
That's right. So there's attribution studies going on around this current heat wave this summer, and it's too early now to say exactly how much climate change has contributed to this particular heat wave this year, but we will be publishing that information later in the summer once the heat wave is over.
For everyone at home, what's an attribution study? What does that actually mean?
This is where we look at an event and we say how much more likely or how much more severe was that event because of climate change compared to if that event had happened with no influence from human emissions of greenhouse gases.
Right. And then this. So we've talked about the globe. Now this is UK specific. The state of the climate across the UK from last year. Again, the report was published last week.
That's right.
And what's this showing?
Yeah. So this report shows that again we're seeing really warm temperatures for 2017. They're warmer than the last decade. You can see they're 0.5 degrees warmer than the current decade. They're also warmer than what we describe as our current climate. So we measure climate on time periods of about 30 years. And so when we talk about current climate, we normally refer to this period 1981 to 2010. So when we look at whether we're seeing changes in our climate, we refer to these kind of baselines. So we've seen the latest decade is 0.8 degrees higher than our long-term records of climate change, or long-term climate records, which is this 1961 to 1990 record. It's warmer than our current climate, and it's warmer than the last decade. So we're just seeing the same story, that whilst we do see natural variation year on year, there is this general trend of warming.
Now, these are pretty graphs, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
I have a time made out one of those. So who is Neil Kay, first and foremost?
Neil Kay is one of my colleagues at the Heatwave Hadley Centre. He works in climate science, and he also does lots of exciting visualisations with data.
Tweeted these last week again as part of the process. And what are they? Should we look at the bigger picture of them?
So this is data that was published in the State of the UK Climate Report last week. And you can see we've got sunshine, temperature and rainfall here. Each line is an individual year. And you can see from the colours how these averages for the year have changed. So you can see quite clearly by eye that the last few decades are sunnier.
A yellow line is a sunnier than average year, and a black
year.
line is a duller than average year. A red line is hotter than average. A blue line is cooler. Green is a wetter, and brown is a drier. So you can quite clearly see the trend over the past 20 years. Greener, redder and yellow. So sunnier, warmer and wetter, interestingly.
Exactly.
There's a definite trend there, and the years going back again, almost 100 years worth of data there.
That's right.
It's interesting how you can get sunnier and wetter, right? You'd think you'd have one or the other, right?
Yeah, so these are averages for the whole year. So this isn't looking at particular periods within the year, like the heat wave that we're seeing at the moment is a period of weeks to months of extremely high temperatures and low rainfall. Averaged over the year, we're seeing that on the whole it's sunnier. But on the whole, it's also wetter, and that's partly because as our climate's changing, we're expecting the UK to experience drier summers and more sunshine. But when it does rain, the rain is heavier. So the downpours are more intense when they do occur. And on the other half of the year, in winter, we're experiencing a trend towards wetter conditions on average. So this is kind of how it comes out once you average it over the year. But to look at specific time periods, we're seeing some changes in the extremes as well.
So warmer atmosphere holds more moisture, you get bigger downpours in the summer, you get wetter weather in the winter, but you get sunnier weather as well, and a clear signal for warmer temperatures.
It's a great way of visualising things. Now, next question that we've been asked a lot again over recent weeks. 1976, famous summer that none of us can remember, obviously, because we're all too young. But 76, everyone talks about 76. It was hotter then, it was sunnier then. Is it that extreme? What's the difference between this year and 76?
Well, this map shows the differences quite clearly. So we've got June 1976 here and June 2018 here. Back in 1976, we saw that the high temperatures that we experienced in the UK were pretty isolated to the UK and a few other areas, whereas this summer we're experiencing these kind of temperature extremes much more widespread across the world. So we've seen records broken in Japan, northern Siberia, USA, all over the world, and this is reflecting the fact that there's an increased risk from heat waves as a result of this rising baseline. Global temperatures are becoming warmer.
And this is just for June, because people are checking out that actually northern parts of Scandinavia are blue there at the moment, because this is for June. It doesn't take into account July yet, but you can quite clearly see again here. Again, it's quite detailed. You might not be able to pick it up on screen, but we'll put a link to all of these graphs, so you'll be able to can sit and study them. We'll put a link in the description so you can see them for yourself, because you might not be able to fully appreciate exactly where we are here. But this is a map of the world in 76 and 2018. You can quite clearly, I think, see there's many more red blobs. There's much more in the way of widespread extreme heat this year compared to 76.
So what everyone wants to know is this the new normal? Will we see this sort of thing every year from now on?
We won't see this every year. We'll still experience this natural variation in our weather. And the UK, we know this more than ever. We have a very variable climate.
But which is in a job. It's good.
Exactly. We're getting better at forecasting these kind of things, and that's one of the good news stories from this. There's been a lot of Met Office research into particular heat waves in the past. So there was a hugely serious heat wave in Europe in 2003, and on the back of that, we did a lot of research that shows that these kind of events a heat wave of that severity had doubled in likelihood as a result of human influence. Wow. And that actually since the early 2000s, the chances of seeing temperature extremes in Europe have risen about tenfold. So these things are becoming more likely, and it is a really serious risk. I mean, we all enjoy the sunshine, particularly in the UK, but this is something that globally is a very serious threat. And we are expecting an increased risk in future. Not every year, but the trend is towards more frequent, more intense heat waves when they do occur.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much for that. That's absolutely fascinating. Again, we'll put all those graphs and all that information available, so you can take it away and study it, because there's a lot of detail in there. But some fantastic visualizations there, and I think it really does get the message across. It is getting hotter. Definitely. Thank you very much, Kathy. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being on this week.
Now let's take a look at a few questions that have come in. Major Lee asks, not heard much about UV this year. Sun seems really powerful. Well, actually, UV has been a big talking point here at the Met Office. We've been trying to highlight the risk of UV as much as possible in our weather forecasts. UV, of course, isn't correlated to the air temperature that we feel.
That's what people get confused with quite a lot.
So the peak UV is summer solstice towards the end of June. But, of course, with so much sunshine this year, we've had an extraordinary amount of sunshine and people heading out and enjoying the summer weather in the UK. We have been trying to highlight those dangers of UV and encouraging people to cover up.
Another question here from MK Tristan asks, I've heard some news that this heat could last until October in the autumn. Is this true? Well, here at the Met Office, we do lots of different types of forecasts, and you may have heard that one of our long-range forecasts, which is for contingency planners, that there is a suggestion that in the longer range, the 3-month outlook does say that the most likely scenario is that temperatures will be higher than average. But that is not to say in any way, shape or form that this heat wave is going to last until October, is going to stay hot until October. There's that's the average temperature by day and by night, so it could just be a little bit warmer by day or by night. It's just the most likely scenario scenario, so it's not definite. For any specifics on heat waves and day-to-day forecasts, you need to keep up to date with the latest forecast that's constantly being monitored.
It's not a forecast as such, it's more like the odds of betting on a horse race. So you can say, given all these factors in the climate around the world, the odds of this sort of weather over the next, this sort of average temperature over the next 3 months is slightly higher. But the favourite in a horse race doesn't always win.
And again, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be hot by day and sunny by day. It could just mean that the nights are a little bit warm. It could be cloudy in nights, and those nighttime temperatures are higher than average as well. So it doesn't mean the heat wave is going to continue. In fact, how long is the heat wave going to continue?
Not for much longer, this present heat wave. Let's just quickly have a look around Europe, because you'll notice, first of all, a cold front draped across the UK, and take a look at this temperature difference. These strong red colours across southeast England and much of Europe. Now, this is the heat that we saw in the Iberian Peninsula at the weekend. That's moving into central parts of Europe, northeastwards over the next few days. And if we run the sequence through, this cold front moves in, and into Tuesday night, some intense thunderstorms as a result of that clash between the cooler air to the west and the very hot air to the east. So thunderstorms across East Anglia in the southeast, but also across the Low Countries through Tuesday. Now, into Wednesday, you can see that heat focused, again, across central parts of Europe, into Germany, Denmark, southern Sweden. We're talking temperatures mid to high 30s. But again, that risk here of some severe storms, hail, frequent lightning, 3 inches of rainfall in just a few hours. But already by Wednesday, much cooler, much fresher air.
Some green, some fresher air heading across the UK. It is going to be much cooler this week. Now, one of the reasons you get thunderstorms is, of course, the heat equals more energy in the atmosphere. That's why you get big lightning storms. We could see a big display tonight, actually, of lightning across East Anglia and the southeast, and there is a warning in force. The thunderstorms clear away, and then we're back to westerly winds, low pressure, weather fronts, something that we're frequently talking about here in the Met Office, but just haven't done much of in the past few months. It feels like a comfort blanket. We're back to weather fronts coming in from the
Sunshine
Atlantic.
and showers.
Sunshine and showers.
Phrase that we
exactly.
enjoy talking. Sunshine and showers for the rest of the working week. Perhaps more substantial rainfall into the weekend.
Yeah,
Welcome rain.
A deep area of low pressure potentially heading our way. So that's something to watch, and something you'll be bringing out in the 10-day trend.
That's right.
Which is our longer range forecast that we do on a Wednesday. You'll be doing it tomorrow. It goes on Facebook. It goes on YouTube. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, then you'll get an update when it goes, and that looks at the longer range.
Low pressure, rain into the weekend. Is that it? Is summer over? Perhaps not quite, because high pressure, well, the signs are it's
might
not
topple back in. So if you're on school holidays at the moment and you've got next week off, don't write the summer off just yet. Yes, this current hot spell is coming to an end, but we may see a return of some fine weather again through next week. So again, stay tuned to the forecast for more updates on that, the day-to-day detail, and Aidan's 10-day trends tomorrow, which will look at the weekend and beyond into next week. Lots of different ways that you can stay up to date with the Met Office. We've got a Facebook page, obviously on YouTube. Subscribe to this, not just this channel, but we have our sister channel, Learn About Weather, which is much more information about certain aspects of weather, so you can look at how the jet stream works or what weather fronts are. It's more of an educational one. It's really lots of information on there. That's the Learn About Weather channel. Again, we'll put a link in the description here. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat as well. So we'll be doing forecasts for Boardmasters on there later on as well. So lots of ways to follow us. Please keep questions coming in. Even if you haven't watched this live, we may well answer them next week. Don't forget to give us the thumbs up and give us the like and share it with your friends. If you enjoyed what you've seen here, tell your friends about it. Share this broadcast with them as well. But thank you very much for watching, and we will see you again same time next week. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.